Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Mitchell, and I am a clinical intern here at AMRI. Today is January 29th, 2024, and I will be presenting PTSD in Veterans, Understanding and Addressing the Invisible Wounds of War. This is our agenda. What is PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder is a psychiatric disorder that can arise in individuals who have experienced or witnessed a traumatic event, a series of events, or a set of circumstances perceived as emotionally or physically harmful or life-threatening. These experiences can have a profound impact on an individual's mental, physical, social, and spiritual well-being. Common examples of each traumatic experiences include natural disasters, serious accidents, terrorist acts, war or combat, rape or sexual assault, historical trauma, intimate partner violence, and bullying. PTSD manifests throughout various symptoms that can significantly affect a person's daily life and functioning. PTSD is known by many names in the past, such as shell shock during the years of World War I and combat fatigue after World War II. But PTSD does not just happen to combat veterans. PTSD can occur in all people of any ethnicity, nationality, or culture and at any age. Symptoms of PTSD. Intrusion. This category includes symptoms like recurrent, involuntary, and intrusive distressing memories of the traumatic event, distressing dreams related to the trauma, and flashbacks that are so vivid that they make the person feel as though they're reliving the event or watching it unfold before their very own eyes. Avoidance. Individuals with PTSD may actively avoid reminders of the trauma. This can manifest as steering clear of people, places, activities, objects, and situations that bring back distressing memories. They might also avoid thinking or talking about the traumatic event and resist discussing their feelings about what happened. Alterations in cognition and mood. This involves symptoms such as an inability to remember important aspects of the traumatic event, persistent and distorted negative beliefs about oneself, distorted thoughts about cause or consequences of the event that led to self-blame or blaming others, persistent negative emotion states, diminished interest in significant activities, feelings of detachment or estrangement from others, and an inability to experience positive emotions. Alterations in arousal and reactivity. Symptoms in this category may include irritability and angry outbursts, reckless or self-destructive behavior, hypervigilance, an exaggerated startled response, concentration difficulties, and sleep disturbances. Serving in the military often exposes individuals to unique and potentially traumatic experiences distinct from those typically encountered by civilians. The specific nature of these traumas can vary depending on the war or conflict in which one served, as different conflicts are characterized by different types of traumatic events. Factors such as war zone deployment, involvement in combat missions, training, accidents, and military sexual trauma can significantly contribute to the development of post-traumatic stress disorder among veterans. The number of veterans with PTSD varies by service era. The data below are from a large study of veterans across the country. Assessment. The clinician-administered PTSD scale for DSM-5 is a 30-item structured interview developed by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs National Center for PTSD. Designed for clinicians and clinical researchers knowledgeable in PTSD, it is used for diagnosing PTSD, determining a lifetime diagnosis, or assessing recent PTSD symptoms. The CAPS-5 interview, aligning with DSM-5 criteria, typically takes 45 to 60 minutes to administer, offering a reliable and detailed assessment of PTSD. Treatment. Evidence-based therapies have been highly effective in treating post-traumatic stress disorder. Many of these therapies are available at a local VA medical center, providing accessible treatment options for veterans. These therapies include cognitive processing therapy. This therapy assists veterans in identifying and understanding how traumatic experiences have influenced their thinking. It involves evaluating these thoughts and working to modify them, leading to the development of healthier and more balanced beliefs about themselves, others, and the world. Prolonged exposure. Prolonged exposure therapy encourages veterans to gradually confront traumatic memories, feelings, and situations. This direct approach helps in reducing the symptoms of PTSD as veterans face and process their traumas. Cognitive behavioral conjoint therapy for PTSD. CBCT is designed to help couples understand the impact of PTSD on their relationship and enhance interpersonal communication. It can lead to a shift in thoughts and beliefs related to both PTSD and relationship challenges, fostering a healthier dynamic. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. This therapy aids in processing and making sense of traumatic experiences. It involves recalling the trauma while focusing on a bilateral stimulus such as a finger, waving side to side, a light, or a tone, which facilitates the processing of traumatic memories. These therapies represent a range of options tailored to address the diverse needs of PTSD, providing effective pathways to recovery and improved mental health. PTSD may be related to changes in the brain that are linked to ability to manage stress. Compared with people who don't have PTSD, people with PTSD appear to have different amounts of certain chemicals called neurotransmitters in the brain. SSRIs and SNRIs are types of antidepressant medication that are believed to treat PTSD by putting these brain chemicals back in balance. They do not work as well as trauma-focused psychotherapy, but they can be effective. Risk factors. Recent research indicates that deployment significantly elevates the risk of developing post-traumatic stress disorder among veterans. In certain studies, veterans who have been deployed were found to be 3 times more likely to develop PTSD compared to non-deployed counterparts from the same service era. This statistic underscores the profound impact that deployment and the experiences associated with it can have on mental health. Several factors inherent in combat situations may contribute on the onset of PTSD and other mental health issues among military personnel. These factors include the military occupation or specialty of the service member, which determines their specific roles and responsibilities in a combat zone. The political context surrounding the war can also play a role, influencing the psychological and moral complexities faced by service members. Additionally, the geographical location of the conflict and the nature of the enemy encountered are significant factors that can affect the psychological impact of combat experiences. Military sexual trauma is another critical factor contributing to PTSD in the military. MST encompasses any instance of sexual harassment or sexual assault that occurs during military service. It is a pervasive issue that can affect service members regardless of gender, rank, or the circumstances of their service, including during peacetime, training, or war. The impact of MST on mental health is profound, as it necessitates dedicated attention and resources to support affected individuals and to address the issue effectively within the military structure. Recognizing and addressing these varied causes of PTSD in the military is essential for providing comprehensive support to veterans and active duty service members, ensuring their well-being and acknowledging the complex challenges they face during and after their service. Quantifying the exact number of suicides is a complex and challenging task. This difficulty arises from various factors, including the underreporting of suicides and the inherent challenge in determining the intention behind a person's death. For death to be officially classified as a suicide, it must be clear that the individual intended to end their life. This determination often requires a thorough investigation and can be subjective. Additionally, the reporting and classification of deaths can vary significantly across states and regions, with variation in who is mandated to report a death and how these reports are processed. Over time, changes in the coding of mortality data can also impact the accuracy and consistency of suicide statistics. Research has established a clear correlation between experiencing traumatic events and an increased risk of suicidal behaviors. For instance, studies that have shown that individuals who have endured traumatic experiences, such as childhood abuse, are at a higher risk of contemplating or attempting suicide. Similarly, a history of military sexual trauma is linked to an elevated risk of suicide and intentional self-harm. This finding highlights the importance of screening for suicide risk in populations that have experienced MST, as well as providing a targeted support and intervention to mitigate this risk. For comparison, the suicide rate in the U.S. population among males was 19.4 per 100,000 compared to 4.9 per 100,000 in females. Based on the most recent data available in fiscal year 2009, the suicide rate among male veteran VA users was 38.3 per 100,000 compared to 12.8 per 100,000 in females. In summary, veterans are more likely to develop PTSD than civilians. Among veterans, those who deploy are more likely to have PTSD than veterans who do not. Also, veterans who use the VA for health care are more likely to be diagnosed with PTSD than those who use community health care services. This may be due in part because the VA screens for MST and PTSD for all veteran patients. Research is ongoing to better understand how PTSD affects veterans of color, LGBTQ plus veterans, and those of other diverse backgrounds. These social factors impact the risk of trauma and PTSD in civilian life and the military. These are my references. If there are no questions, that completes my presentation. Thank you very much.